Karen saw my Ferrari and decided I didn't belong. She called the cops, claimed I was a thief, and tried to humiliate me in front of my neighbors. But she didn't know I'm a federal agent. And by the time it was over, she wasn't just embarrassed, she was arrested. Subscribe to Ha Stories for real justice, wild HOA drama, and stories where karma hits back hard. Tell us in the comments, what's the worst thing a neighbor ever did to you? I had barely finished moving into my new home when Karen decided to make me her personal target. The house was a beautiful corner lot in a well-kept, HOA-controlled neighborhood just outside the city, a peaceful place with manicured lawns, brick mailboxes, and retired folks who watered plants at 6 a.m. I had just gotten back from an overseas operation, exhausted but excited to finally settle somewhere quiet. I parked my bright red Ferrari 296 GTB in the driveway, stepped out in my worn jeans and hoodie, stretched my arms toward the sky, breathing in the air of a new beginning. That's when I saw her. Clipboard, sunglasses, frosted hair, tan windbreaker zipped to the neck. She marched across the street with all the entitlement of a woman who thought she owned the asphalt. "Excuse me," she said, voice sharp as barbed wire. "Is that your car?" I glanced at her, confused. "Yes, ma'am," I replied. "Can I help you?" She sneered. "People like you don't usually drive cars like that. I've lived here 23 years and we don't do ... Flashier, you must be lost." The way she said "people like you" made my ears burn, but I stayed calm. "Actually, I live here," I said, pointing to my front door where my name was already on the mailbox. "I just closed 3 days ago." Her eyes narrowed. "I find that hard to believe. Did you rent it?" "Airbnb. This community has standards." I gave a dry chuckle. "No, I bought it. It's my own money." Karen stared at me as if I'd just confessed to robbing a bank. "I'm going to need your ID. You could be squatting or worse." I blinked. "I don't need to show you anything." "Who are you again?" She held up the clipboard like it was a police badge. "I'm Karen, president of the HOA. "Congratulations," I said, walking to my trunk. "But that still doesn't give you the right to interrogate me." She huffed and said, "Then I'm calling the police." I looked at her calmly and said, "Be my guest." She pulled out her phone and told 911 that a suspicious male was loitering near a Ferrari and possibly breaking into the house. She described me a race, clothing, and pointed to my car as though that proved her point. Within 10 minutes, 2 patrol cars showed up, lights flashing. I kept my hands visible and stood calmly near the hood of my Ferrari. The cops stepped out, clearly unsure how to approach. Karen ran up to them before they could say anything. "That's him," she exclaimed. "He claims he lives here, but he doesn't. That car's probably stolen." The officers approached me, asking for ID. Without a word, I handed over both my driver's license and my federal credentials. Their entire demeanor changed. "Sir, we're so sorry," one officer said. "You're good. You're more than good." Karen, now eavesdropping, paled. "Wait, federal like FBI?" "Close enough. Close enough." I didn't press charges right then. But I did file a full incident report. Then I did something Karen never expected. Started digging. I requested HOA meeting minutes, reviewed their bylaws, talked to several residents. Turns out Karen had a history of targeting people she didn't approve of. She fined an elderly black veteran for having a flag that was too large. She accused a Latino family of smuggling because their cousins visited often. She tried to evict a disabled man who had a therapy pony because it was inappropriate. And she'd spent over $12,000 of HOA funds on things like her personal lawn upgrades, exterior paint, and new patio furniture she claimed was for community events that never happened. I compiled a thick file and handed it over to my agency's legal team, who then referred it to the county housing board. Once we confirmed she'd violated both state HOA statutes and possible anti-discrimination laws, the DA's office got involved. 1 month later, Karen was formally charged with harassment, misuse of community funds, false reporting, and housing discrimination. They arrested her at the community clubhouse in front of a dozen board members and residents. That moment, perfect. The HOA held an emergency meeting where they not only voted Karen off the board, they also elected me as interim president. I declined, but not before making sure all improperly issued fines were refunded. Homeowners were reimbursed, and an independent audit was scheduled. As for my Ferrari, it now sits in the driveway every Saturday, polished and parked at an angle, because Karen once tried to say angled parking wasn't allowed. It's my quiet tribute to the fact that no matter how loudly someone like Karen barks, justice speaks louder. And when it does, it drives a Ferrari.